Welcome to our channel, all friends. If you are new to my channel, please subscribe my channel and press the bell icon to stay update for new videos. Thanks. Let's start new video. My aunt's son suddenly appeared right next to me, gazing at me with eyes full of love. I could clearly feel the heat of his gaze, but I deliberately took 2 steps back. I couldn't let him know that I was also burning in the same fire that had already consumed him. A hidden flame of love burned in both our hearts, but I couldn't express it in front of Rizwan, nor could I give this love any name, while Rizwan was eager to express his feelings openly. Even now, he was slowly moving closer to me. I had just taken a shower and come up to the rooftop because of the cold weather, hoping to dry my hair in the sunlight, but the warmth of Rizwan's gaze was melting me. I quickly averted my eyes and tried to head downstairs, but he grabbed my wrist and pulled me closer. "What's wrong, man? Why are you running away so nervously? What harm is there in talking for a few moments?" he said, clearly restless. His eyes locked with mine, and I could feel the warmth of his breath on my skin. My heart began to waver, but I controlled my emotions and replied angrily, "What kind of behavior is this, Rizwan? Someone might come. The rooftop walls aren't even that high. The neighbors can see everything." I tried to make him understand, hoping he would step back, but he didn't care about anyone. When he took one more step toward me, I felt like even breathing had become difficult. He leaned in close to my face and gently moved my hair away. In that moment, I became lost in his face, completely mesmerized. For a while, everything stood still. Neither of us was aware of anything anymore. We were lost in a trance, forgetting the world. But then a voice echoed from downstairs. "Iman, how much longer do you plan to stay on the roof?" It was my mother's voice. I jumped in shock. Quickly pulling myself away from Rizwan, I pretended to be angry and started heading down the stairs. Just then, he called out behind me, "It's only a matter of time now. One day I'll make you pay for everything. The way you make me long for you, I'll make you yearn for me even more. You'll beg for my closeness, and I'll leave you in your loneliness." Rizwan, smiling, was warning me playfully while I shook my head and came downstairs. My heartbeat was still racing. As soon as my mother saw me, she said, "Where have you been, Iman? You've been on the rooftop for ages. Don't you know your elder aunt is here? She'll start making all sorts of comments. Go to the kitchen and prepare something for her to eat." I just don't understand. Why does she come to our house uninvited when she clearly can't stand us? Hearing my mother's words, I simply looked at her silently and went to the kitchen. Tears began to fall from my eyes on their own. Just moments ago, I had felt the warmth of love, and now I was tasting the bitterness of hatred. My mother deeply hated my elder aunt, and Rizwan was her son. That was the one reason why I constantly denied my own feelings. I rejected every step Rizwan took toward me. Whenever he tried to come near and express his love, I would take a step back, because I knew very well that no matter what happened, my mother would never let me marry into that family, especially not in my elder aunt's house. She had an intense, almost irrational dislike for her. Even now, following my mother's orders, I had started preparing shami kebabs and biryani, but her endless muttering continued to echo in my ears. "They show up unannounced, always filling your father's ears with poison, burying tuis, amulets, in our house. How can we ever find peace while she's around? Blah, blah, blah." I didn't know why my mother held on to these feelings so strongly. Where did so much bitterness even come from? Whatever came to her mouth, she said without filter, and I just silently kept listening. After putting the biryani on slow cook, I had just placed the kebabs in the oil when I saw Rizwan's face appear at the kitchen door. With a loving gaze, he asked, "Did you make these kebabs for me?" I quickly replied, "No, I made them for your mother," and turned my face away. He smiled and stepped inside the kitchen. My heart nearly stopped. "What are you doing here? Go to the dining room. If mother sees you here, she'll create a scene," I said, alarmed, trying to push him away quickly. Laughing, he said, "Why are you so scared of Auntie? What's the worst she can do? Scold me a little? That's all she can manage anyway." "Tolerating me and my mother is your mother's compulsion," Rizwan said with a smile. I looked at his face. He seemed completely calm and content. But I knew the truth. Tolerating him and his mother was indeed mother's compulsion, but getting me married to him wasn't. One word of refusal from her could turn my whole life upside down. Without saying anything, I finished frying the kebabs and placed them on a plate. Rizwan casually picked one up and, humming to himself, walked out of the kitchen. As soon as he left, Mother entered the kitchen and began cursing him under her breath. This mother and son can never get rid of their gluttony. They only come here to eat what they like. I bet his mother doesn't even make kebabs at home. That's why he just barged in here and grabbed one right off the plate. Has Shanila ever taught her kids any manners? She said a few more harsh things about Rizwan that pierced my heart. Why was Mother always after Aunt, and her children? Aunt wasn't some beggar or pauper who would come here for the sake of food. What do they lack in their home anyway? She only visits once in months, and even then, Mother holds so much resentment toward her. I said what had long been in my heart, and it struck Mother like an arrow. She looked at me with eyes full of anger. I know very well why you care so much for your aunt. Let me be absolutely clear. I will never let you marry into her house, Mother said firmly. I've already decided. You'll marry your aunt's son, Farzin. She cast one last stern look at me and left the kitchen. I felt like the sky had just collapsed on me. Tears welled up in my eyes, and I struggled to hold myself together. Farzin's image flashed before my eyes. He wasn't terrible looking, but he was lazy and irresponsible. He lived off his father's business, indulging in luxuries. He neither helped his father in any meaningful way, nor had any promising future. The money he flaunted wasn't his. It was my uncle's. The business he showed off about wasn't his either. It was my uncle's. And I didn't want to marry someone who had no ambition of his own, someone who did nothing but enjoy life off his father's hard-earned wealth. And then Farzin wasn't even my aunt's only son. She had 4 sons in total, and all of them shared equal rights in their father's business. In the end, Farzin had nothing to his name except his incompetence. Lost in these thoughts, I had set the dining table. Everyone was seated, Aunt and Rizwan, Mother, Father, and my younger sister Gudia. Father, speaking affectionately to Aunt, said, Shanila, sister, you come after such a long time. I really miss you. Mother's face turned sour at his words, like thorns had pricked her ears. She shot a sharp look at Father, and he immediately fell silent. But Aunt, with great warmth, replied, Time just doesn't permit. Rizwan had a day off from work today, so I thought why not visit my brother for an hour or two. But then Iman prepared such a lovely meal with so much love, we decided to stay longer. Otherwise, we were going to head back. She said this while smiling warmly at me. Mother mumbled something under her breath again. I silently prayed Aunt didn't catch any of those words. Father chimed in again. I'm glad you came, sister. Now that you're here, stay for dinner as well. But Aunt gently shook her head and said, No, little brother, I actually came because I needed to talk to you about something important. Let's go to your room and after the meal so we can speak in peace. There was a soft smile on her face. Father nodded in agreement, while Mother's expression stiffened. She began watching Father and Aunt closely, clearly trying to guess what the conversation could be about. Soon after, Aunt went into Father's room, and Father followed behind her. Mother started pacing back and forth like a restless cat. Then suddenly, as if overcome by suspicion, she too went to the room. Taking advantage of the moment, Rizwan quietly came near me. I was gathering the dishes when I asked him, What is it that Aunt wants to talk about? Is everything okay? Rizwan smiled, gently traced his finger over my lips, and said lovingly, Mother has come to ask for your hand in marriage. The glass I was holding slipped from my hand and shattered on the floor. I glanced first at the broken glass, then at Rizwan. What are you saying, Rizwan? Do you even realize what kind of storm Mother will create? She's already chosen Farzin for me. You could have at least asked me once before bringing Aunt here. The words slipped out of my mouth unknowingly, and upon hearing them, Rizwan's face turned red with anger. He suddenly became furious and twisted my wrist tightly, saying, Don't you dare mention that loafer's name again. How could you even think he's worthy of you? Just because his father owns a business doesn't mean he can give you happiness or a comfortable life. I love you, and no one else can care for you the way I do. In his anger, he continued saying a lot more, and I just stared into the madness in his eyes. I wanted to explain to him that such obsession and emotional outbursts weren't right, but he had already stormed out of the house. I blamed myself. Why did I even mention Farzine's name in front of him? A little while later, Aunt came out of Father's room. She kissed my forehead lovingly and then left the house. By then, I had already cleaned up the broken glass. As soon as I shut the main door after seeing Aunt off, loud shouting erupted from Father's room. I rushed in on panicked feet. Mother had placed a knife against her wrist and was yelling at Father. "If you say yes to your sister, I swear I'll take my own life. I already told you I will not let my daughter marry into her paternal side. These sisters of yours pretend to be nice to your face, but I know how much hatred they carry for me. They've never liked me as their sister-in-law, and now they wanted to take my daughter into their home just to torture her. This is the perfect way to crush me under their feet for the rest of my life. What does Rizwan even do? Just a simple job. What future can he give my daughter? Farzine is the right match for her, and you're choosing this lump of coal over gold?" Mother was emotionally blackmailing Father by threatening to harm herself. Father sat with his head in his hands, clearly torn. He tried to reason with her. "Why can't you understand? She's my sister. She loves me. And Rizwan loves our daughter. Can't you see the affection in the children's eyes? Our daughter is modest, obedient, and full of grace. But that doesn't mean we ignore her emotions and tie her forcibly to someone unworthy. Marriage is a decision that must be made with the consent of both parents and children. Only then can they live a truly happy life. No matter how rich Farzine is, if our Iman doesn't love him, she'll be sacrificing her whole life for a compromise. And I can't bear to see sadness or pain in my daughter's eyes. Iman is my eldest daughter. She's my life." Father kept trying to make Mother understand, but she wouldn't listen. Then she did something even worse. She placed the same knife against her throat and looked at me. "Now tell me, do you want to marry Rizwan, or are you ready to marry Farzine?" I was completely shocked. I screamed in fear, "Mother, what are you doing?" Mother said again, "Answer me. Will you marry Farzine or not?" With a stone on my heart, I nodded and said, "Mother, I will marry whoever you choose. I don't want to marry Rizwan." I said those heartbreaking words for the sake of my mother, and it felt like the sky collapsed over my head. Mother looked at Father and said, "Now call your sister and tell her Iman has refused." She had put the gun on my shoulder and pulled the trigger. Father, with no choice, called Aunt a little while later and rejected the proposal, the one that my heart had already accepted. He just said, "Iman is not willing." Aunt went completely silent. Father's face, too, was filled with sorrow. He gently placed his hand on my head and said, "Daughter, if possible, please forgive me." I swallowed my tears and hugged him tightly. A little while later, he left the house, and Mother finally sighed in relief. I knew well how stubborn Mother could be. That's why I never mentioned Rizwan's name again. Just 4 days later, Aunt came to our home and placed a dupatta over my head, formally announcing my engagement to Farzine. Farzine had come with her. As always, seeing him ignited a fire of disgust in me. He sat shamelessly on the sofa, acting inappropriately. Sometimes he grabbed my hand, and other times he tried to wrap his arm around my waist. I kept sliding away from him until I was practically clinging to the edge of the sofa, but that shameless man felt no shame at all. Soon I managed to slip away and went to my room. But even there, he followed me. He came close and suddenly grabbed me in his arms. The stench of cigarette smoke on his breath made me hold my own breath. Seeing my reaction, he laughed loudly. Thankfully, just then, Aunt called out for him and he let go of me and left the room. I spent the entire day crying. That ceremonial dupatta felt like a heavy burden on my soul. That night, Rizwan called me. Just hearing his voice made my heart tremble. His voice was shaky, full of distress. He anxiously asked, "Iman, what is all this?" When Mamoon John refused, I stayed quiet, thinking that after a few days, Mother would talk again and convince Mommy John. Because even I know this rejection didn't come from you. It was from Mommy John. But now, you're engaged to Farzine? Go and tell your mother right now that this can't happen. I will send the proposal again. Mother and I, we both love you so much. Rizwan, drowned in emotions, kept saying so much more, but I gently shook my head and said, I rejected it of my own will. This wasn't mother's decision. It was mine. I want to marry Farzin. You have nothing to offer me. Rizwan was stunned silent. After a long pause, he asked, Are you serious? Do you really value money over love? Softly, I said, Love means nothing. When there's money in someone's pocket, even an average person starts looking attractive. The truth was, I didn't want to hurt my mother. So I buried my love deep within and rejected Rizwan myself, hoping that if I seemed firm, he would back away for good. After hearing my words, Rizwan quietly hung up the phone. I cried all night, silently sobbing for the countless moments I had imagined with him. If only my mother's pride hadn't stood between us, we could have been together so easily. Aunt fixed the wedding date just 2 months later, and I didn't even realize how quickly those 2 months passed. Mother was busy in wedding preparations, while I silently shed tears day and night. Only father and my younger sister noticed my pain, but mother remained blind to it all. Then, 2 days before the wedding, Aunt visited our home and handed mother a long list. Mother was shocked to see it. Aunt said, Sister, we come from a high-status family. When our daughter-in-law comes, everyone around us, relatives, neighbors, will see what she brought with her. You people did not on the same level as us. But at least give enough dowry for your eldest daughter so that we don't feel embarrassed in front of others, Aunt said with a tone so cold and condescending that mother was left speechless, and my jaw dropped in disbelief. Aunt continued arrogantly, It was only because of Farzin's wish that I agreed, big-heartedly, to make your daughter my daughter-in-law. Otherwise, let's be honest, there's a vast difference between your status and ours. Look at my husband's multi-million business and your husband's small government job. There's no comparison between us. But for Farzin's sake, I agreed. Now you do your part and make sure our reputation and prestige are upheld. With a forced smile plastered on her face, Aunt placed her hand on my head and left just as quickly as she had come. Mother kept staring at that list in her hand for a long while. Fridge, TV, and furniture were the basic items. The list even included a motorbike and a big car. Mother could never have imagined, not even for a moment, that her own sister would treat her this way. She folded the paper in her hand and sat silently on the sofa, lost in thought. Father came home and, noticing Mother's pale face, asked, What's wrong? Is everything okay? Mother remained silent. I stammered and told Father, Aunt came by, and she gave a huge list of dowry items. Father was shocked. He snatched the folded list from Mother's hand and began reading it. Each item stabbed at his heart. There were only 2 days left until the wedding, and at the last minute, Aunt had made their financial difference crystal clear. Tears welled up in Father's eyes. He said, Where am I supposed to get all this from? He immediately called Aunt, but on the other end, her attitude was sky high. She said coldly, What are you saying, brother? Are you really going to be so stingy while sending off your eldest daughter? I never expected this from you. At least consider our dignity. Then she added, Let us know when you've collected everything. For now, we'll just proceed with the nikah. The wedding invitations have already been sent out. With that, Aunt hung up. Father stared blankly at the phone. Then he looked at Mother and said, Your sister isn't even talking about the rukhsati, bridal send-off. She only wants the nikah done for now and will take our daughter once the entire dowry is ready. Tell me, how can I allow my daughter to be married into such a house? What if they make more demands later on? How will we fulfill them? Father's condition had worsened drastically. I was at a loss for what to do. And just then, Aunt suddenly arrived at our house with a wedding gift. When she saw Father's deteriorating state, she screamed and immediately called Rizwan from outside, who hadn't even entered the house. We rushed Father to the hospital. The doctors told us that his blood pressure had spiked dangerously high. The shock had rattled his mental state. Aunt, worried sick, kept asking what had happened. Through tears, I told her everything. Father, slowly regaining consciousness, looked distressed. Aunt said gently, Little brother, why are you so worried? Whatever I have is for our daughters. Rizwan is my only son. I'll save up for him later. But right now, whatever I've gathered, let's give it to Iman. Hearing her words, Father broke down in tears and said, If you really want to give something, Then give Iman Rizwan's name. Aunt smiled. Even mother went silent. There was nothing left for her to say. But Rizwan, he shook his head and refused. He said solemnly, I can't go through with this marriage now. Then he quietly walked out of the hospital. Just by looking at his face, I could tell what was going on inside him. I ran after him and found him sitting on a bench outside. I sat beside him and he whispered, I have nothing to offer you. He turned his face away, trying to hide his tears, and my heart broke. Those words I had once said to him in helplessness had now come back to haunt me. I immediately held Rizwan's arm and said with love, You're misunderstanding me, Rizwan. Everything I said under pressure. Mother forced me to stay away from you. I only wanted to protect you. If I had told you that Mother wasn't agreeing, you would have kept trying, kept sending Aunt again and again. And I didn't want her to face more humiliation. That's why I broke your heart. Tears were streaming down my face. Rizwan looked at me for a long moment, then said, Do you have any idea how much your words hurt me? But I know you love me. And I also know why you had to refuse. He gently wiped my tears. I can't bear to see tears in your eyes, Iman, he said with deep emotion. Then why are you refusing the marriage? Well, I asked quickly, my heart pounding. He smiled and said, Because I wanted to hear a confession of love from your own lips. And now that if you have no objections, then neither do I. I collapsed into his arms, crying. Shortly afterward, Father was discharged from the hospital. He himself called Aunt and refused Farzine's proposal. 2 days later, I was sitting in front of the mirror, dressed as a bride. My love was about to become mine forever. As I looked into the mirror, I imagined Rizwan's face smiling back at me. A little while later, my nikah was solemnized. My name now bore Rizwan's. Mother sent me off in tears, wrapped in apologies and regrets. But I forgave her from my heart. She was my mother, and she wanted the best for me. She had believed that Farzine's wealth would brighten my destiny. But destiny isn't shaped by wealth, it's shaped by the prayers of parents. And it was my father's sincere prayers that finally brought me to the one I truly loved.